We are being joined by Yabagi Sani himself, the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Good to have you, Mr. Chairman. You seem to have given a very interesting inaugural speech. One of the things you mentioned is that you're coming in, for national service and a selfless sacrifice, so to speak. Over time, we've heard that. What is going to be different from what you're bringing in terms of leadership?
Well, thank you very much. Democracy itself is about the people. It's government of the people, for the people, by the people. And the only institution that Constitution recognizes that would deliver this important objective of democracy is political party. And therefore, you cannot also say you have democracy unless you have a multi-party system, because that is when you have contest of ideas, people present themselves, and people will now have choice of who to choose to represent them. So in a situation where you have political parties not playing their role the way it's intended by the Constitution, then you don't have democracy at that point in time. And that is why Ipac, under this present administration that I am chairing, will work very hard to fulfill that mandate which is given by the Constitution, and which is the aspiration of the people of this country. And that's why we say that we are coming to deepen democracy. We are coming to ensure that every political party has its own freedom to really aspire to be whatever they want to be in terms of presenting people and be allowed to be voted for. And when votes are cast, that the votes count. So that is very important, and the only institution, if you look at it, if you look at all the democratic institutions you have in this country, political party like the distinguished Senator Dansado has said, really all the other institutions are byproducts, of the political parties. You look at the presidency, you look at even the judiciary to that extent, because it is the president or the governors that appoint judges. So from that perspective, this Inter-Party Advisory Council is an important institution that should be given that respect and that profile and that engagement that it requires, so that people will begin to understand that political parties are not just institutions floating in the air.
All right. We'll come to talk about. You said parties doing what they should do.
That's
what will naturally ask you. What should parties be doing? But that's not where I'm going to. You're talking about one-party system. What is giving rise to that discussion of one-party system and dictatorship? Isn't that far-fetched? And you say you're committed to resisting it. I mean, I read your speech.
Yes, very much
Apart from looking like you're chasing the wind, that's what it is looking like to me. How do you intend to achieve this if such is in the offing?
No, how we achieve it is that the council itself is made up of all political parties.
Okay.
And we make rules for ourselves, and we must obey these rules because there are sanctions if you don't go by the rules. What perhaps has been lacking is the enforcement of that rule and the entrenchment itself of that, the ethos of democracy and the etiquette of what political party operators are supposed to observe, which is lacking. And it's lacking because in any organization at all, you have councils, you have, they give themselves that institution or organization that can whip people, in line, so that you don't have an all-comers affair, and at the end of the day, the organization will lose its own credibility and respect. So that's why it is important for us, for our own sake, and for the sake of the people that we want to lead, that we behave in a way that people will look at us as a disciplined organization, as an organization that deserves to be respected and be followed. So we have to show the example at the IPAC level. And how do we do it? Is by observing what we call internal democracy. And this is what we are coming to introduce. So that, because if we don't respect our own rules, how do we now then ask Nigerians to follow, what we want them to do as political parties? And as you can see, if we don't do that, it is existential to political parties, because you can, I mean, you remember that we were about 90-something before, and almost 70-something of us were, deregistered. They're in court now. I don't know what may happen at the end of the day. But it's because we were not doing things in the proper way. You find a way, you find that when elections are coming, some of them will just come together and say, we are supporting Mr. A, instead of you to now work for your own party. And sometimes, what was happening was that parties, executives at the state levels, unfortunately, are the most dangerous elements, in the way they are behaving, because they are the ones that when elections are coming, instead of them to work for their own party, they gang up, go to the governor of the state, who will give them money, and they will abandon their own candidates and then work for the governor's, candidates.
Talk about this one party. I raised the issue of one party system.
That's the one party system. Those are the things that we are going to check. That's why I'm saying the problem is internal. It's for us to now devise means by which we will discipline any party executive at any level, particularly at the state level, that misbehaves, because that's misbehavior. As far as you are abandoning your own candidate and you are working for somebody else's candidate. And that's why some of the parties were registered, because they didn't have people to work for them at the state level. So this is why these Ipac that we are bringing in will discipline ourselves, so that you will have a situation where elections are coming and then you find 70 parties or 20 parties said they are not pursuing any elections. They are going to follow this.
You do that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ipac Vows, Chairman, National Executive Committee of Ipac.